Hi, this is Bonnie, and today I wanted to do this technique I saw on YouTube from Jennifer McGuire, and she basically embossed stencils. And Fairy Hugs has just released several new stencils, and I thought I would go ahead and share with you some of the stencils that are out there. I'm going to have to make it so you can see this. There we go. Well, maybe that's not so great. There we go. That's even better. Okay, so this one right here is called Orbs, and you can use it in two different ways, and it does give you kind of a 3D effect. It's really kind of cool. That's one of the new ones. Then the one I'm going to be using today is Vines. And then we also have water stains. This is the water stains. It could also be coffee mug stains, anything like that. It's really cool. And we have swirls, and this is really pretty and delicate, and I used that in the last video. And then we also have what's called Fairy Love, and that is filled with hearts and stars and dots, and it's really pretty even with using a molding paste. And then we have Bubbles, and that's really pretty, all the different techniques you can do with that. And then we also have I think this one's Spirals, correct. And it kind of like has an effect of celebration. It also has a look of snails, seashells, really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and tell you some of the things that you need. And if you want to refer back to Jennifer McGuire's video, I'll have a link to that below. But this is how I went ahead and did it. And what she basically wants you to do is brayer over your stencil separately from the paper, excuse me, and then emboss it into your die cutting machine. And that will give you a look, and it will actually raise this up. I think you can see there's a little bit of a dimension to that. It depends on the type of paper you use to get the embossing part. So I am going to be using washi tape to make a, I want to say hinge, so that you can flip this back and forth. You are also going to be needing some ink that is, I want to say, not really overly juicy, but ink that will be able to be brayered easily over this. Because I found that if my ink was dry, it did not work as well. It also makes a difference if you watch Jennifer McGuire's video, what brayers you use and how it will put the ink on. So this is how you start. You have a hinge, just like I said, and I am going to be using a scrap piece of paper underneath mine. And I am going to start. The brayer I had used originally did not give me the technique that I wanted. I used a speedball. I think this is a soft one. It's got color all over it. And that's what gave me more of the rough look. I'm going to, for this video, try a different brayer. And I can't even tell you, I don't even know what brand this is. But it is a squishy soft. The other one was a little bit hard. So I'm going to see if that makes a difference. So anyway, flip your embossing folder over. You're going to be doing it on the opposite side of what you want to use. And I am going to start with the Selvage Patina. Well, I take that back. Okay, I'm going to start with Chipped Sapphire, and I'm going to add some broken china to that too. So I'm going to go ahead and get my roller brayer all inked up. If I get it inked up quite well, I might be able to do it in one pass, but I don't think that's going to happen. So give this a try and see if I get more ink. And I'm not seeing a lot more ink. I'm seeing more of a pattern on this. So I am going to go back to the speed roller, and like I said, it really makes a difference. She suggested to use Tim Holtz sprayers, but I need an ink that is going to go on that smooth, and that is not working for me at all. So I am going to try. This is showing you some of the different techniques. She had already tried all of them and just went with what she thought worked best. I am just going to be using my blending brush. It seems to adhere better. You can even see that. That's what we're going to go with. And you want to be able to see it. So we did get a try all those different ones just to see how that would work, which is a good technique to learn why things don't work. It really has to have, I want to say, softness to it, and that one did, but for some reason it wanted to also put down whatever kind of material, I guess, when you push on it, because it had more of a, I want to say, checkered pattern. I don't want that. All right, so we've got that pretty covered. And I'm going to, next thing that you need to do is you fold this up and you find out what the sandwich is for your machine. And I am using Spellbinders Platinum 6. And so my sandwich will be this. You need your blue plate, you need your rubber mat, and you need your platform. Okay? I think this is right. The platform goes down first. Nope. The rubber mat goes down first. Right. And then you put down your project, and then you put down your blue embossing plate. And I'm going to bring that over to the platinum, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just took it out of the Spellbinders, and I wanted to show you how light this is, but you can see how it has raised up. So I'm going to go ahead and add that second ink, which I think is a little juicier. It's broken china, and add that to the back of this. And then I'm going to run it through one more time and see what we get. But it really does make a difference if you can get the ink, whatever ink you use, to really adhere well on the back of this. You get the reverse of your stencil by doing it this way. And again, like I said, when Jennifer McGuire did it on her video, it was, the ink showed up very well. She did not use Distress Oxide. So we're going to give this one more try, and I will show you what that looks like. Okay, so this was my end result. It did move just a little bit when I did it that last time. It is not a very dark print for me. And again, I really think that has a lot to do with your inking, your ink and how it works. At any rate, so the inside I wanted to show you. You then take the time and you just use your stencil like you normally would. And this is what I went ahead and did. I used crushed olive, and I pretty much went over the whole thing with crushed olive a little bit. I want to take that back and say I just went with the parts about right there is what I did. I think peeled paint is a little bit lighter. Hold on a minute. Nope. So peeled paint is darker, so I went with, like I said, the crushed olive. And I just found like the bottom parts of the leaves are almost like flowers, but they're not. And I just put a little bit of ink throughout all those spots. Now this is where it's a little bit different than what Jennifer McGuire did, because she had different stencils that layered. And I'm just showing you that you can still do that same technique without the layered stencils and get a really pretty look. All right, so I think I've got all of those, if you want to call them kind of like the ends of the blooms. And we can come back in with a peeled paint and get the stems. Now, it also makes a difference on how much ink you put on and what design you'll end up with, a lighter or darker look. So I'm just going through now and trying to find all the stems and a little bit of the leaves. And it really goes quite quickly. All right, so I've got all that. If you want to check it as you're going, all you do is just lift it up and say, okay, I want to see if there's a little bit more up there. And I think that's like what I'm going to do. But that's what you do, is you just check, lift it up, because you've got it on that little hinge. And so that works really well. So I think we're doing well. So then to change out the color a little bit, I decided to use Selvage Patina and use that as my lighter color. And that is what I did for the ends. I just went ahead and tried to smooth that into it. And that worked out pretty good. If you want a lot of color in the ends, you just need to add more ink. So it's kind of like making your own paper, except for that it is also embossed slightly. It's really kind of fun. I'm kind of doing it in a hurry just because I'm doing it as a video, but normally I would sit here and enjoy and take my time because that is more pleasurable. Okay, get this up here at the top, we'll be done. So you can do this with all of the stencils, any stencils. You just have to look at the pattern and how that would work for you. Okay, let's see what that looks like when we're done. That is, I mean, it's a really, really pretty look, and it'll work really well for a card base. So I'm going to go ahead and get that ready for a card. Okay, as I told you, this is embossed, so it's slightly raised. To stamp there's two things. To stamp this castle on here, because there is a lot of going on in the background, I wanted to show you what it would look like if you stamped it. It doesn't look bad, but you can see all the raised areas. And so what I've decided is I'm stamping this separately, and I'm going to cut that out. But it did not affect stamping up at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. What I am doing is I am auditioning this in the place I'm going to put the cutout piece, and I'm going to go ahead and keep that there. And then I'm going to start putting down. This is, I should tell you what stamp this is. This is called the Stone Castle from Fairy Hugs. This is called Willow Vines, and basically it's going to go around the castle up at the top as I showed you in the example. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that down. And there isn't, other than going around the castle, there isn't any special way for that to go on. It stamps fine. There isn't a problem stamping over when it's just, I don't know, when it's fine like that. It doesn't seem to bother the design. Now, if for some reason yours is a higher raised embossing, you might want to test it on another piece of paper. My embossing wasn't that high, but you see that works perfectly fine. And like I said, I'm just going to then go around where that's going to be It's easier if that would have been stamped first, and I still can stamp it and put it on there so that I know where I'm going to be placing the cutout castle. That might be easier for some of you to do that, just to go ahead and stamp it, because you're going to be putting your cutout on top of it anyway. It needs a little bit more ink. Also, you are stamping on top of Distress Oxide, and so you want that to be inked up quite well to stay, and then that works fine. So that's how you're gonna, you can see how that will fit. You can use any vines up here at the top that Fairy Hugs has, or any vines that you might have in your stash. These all work. I am also using VersaFine Clear Nocturne to do my stamping. Okay. And I think I'm going to add one more, and that part of it will be done. Make sure that will work. And it will. Okay. All right, so that is all set up, and that's really, at this time, the only thing I plan to stamp on there, but I'm going to go ahead and leave that in the stamping platform until I get my castle figured out too. So I'm going to move this and show you what the next step is. And that is, I stamped directly on top of some paper that I had inked the background. So how I inked this background is I used broken china, and I used chipped sapphire. And I basically misted my blending brush and just rubbed that across. I did the one color and then I did the other. And that is what I ended up with. And I'm going to show you again. I did that a second time. And now I'm going to stamp it so you can see how I did that. Again, I'm just using VersaFine Clear Nocturne. And this is a relatively easy stamp to fussy cut. That's one of the reasons I chose this stamp. It has it has some curves and straight lines, but not any curly cues or anything. So it will be easy to stamp. And that's really a good impression. I'm going to give it a second one. Okay. So that's all set and ready to go. All I have to do is fussy cut that out, which I will do. And then the other thing I'm going to add is one of the spooky moons. And for that one, I made a piece of paper that had 3 colors on it. And that was Selvage Patina and, Selvage Patina and Broken China and Chipped Sapphire. And I just layered those up one at a time to get this look. Now, here's a way you can always check if you want to see if you like it or not. Take your acetate acrylic that comes with your stamps, and you just place that over it. And you say, okay, that's going to look good with my design, and that's how you can make your decision. And if not, this is just paper and a little bit of ink. You just, keep making what it is that you would like. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stamp to show you. Again, this is going to be an easy stamp to cut out. It's just a circle. Probably could even use a die for this one if you have the right size. Again, I'm going to use, in this case, I'm going to start with, I want it to be a little bit lighter and not as noticeable. I want it to be a little bit faded. So I'm going to use Morning Mist, VersaFine Clear Morning Mist to start, and add the color as I go if I want it to be darker. But I want it to be more light colored. I want it a little bit darker than that, so I'm going to stamp this twice. And again, it's going to matter how much ink you have on your pad. That's why you can test it. Okay, that's the look I'm going to go for. So I'm going to go ahead and get those fussy cut out for you, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got both of the items cut out, and they're ready to be actually glued on to here. But before I do that, I decided to go ahead and add a little bit of a halo for the moon. So I'm going to have this right there, and I'm going to use broken china. It didn't show up a lot, whatever, on the other one I practice on, but this one was a little bit lighter, so I thought, well, maybe it'll show up a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I'll show you the difference in a minute. So like I said, it all depends on everything you do, has to do with the color of the ink, how dark it is, and what you need to add or not add, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so you can see that very clearly, right? When I go to glue this back down, there's not a whole lot of notice, there's a little bit. Okay, when I did it on my test one, you can't really see it at all. And that has to do with the fact that this was a little bit darker in the background. So it just depends on how you want it to look. This one it shows up, this one it really doesn't. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for the moon. And I'm going to go right ahead and get that glued down so that I have that set. And then the other thing that I did is I added a little bit of a hill for the castle to sit on. So that's just being glued on. And I did hand cut the moon out because I did not have a die, a circle die that was the right size. I had one that was pretty close. All right, so for this one, because it's not on yet, and I know where it's going to go, I am going to put a little bit of a hill right there. And I think you could see that, yes. And I am going to be using chipped sapphire. A little bit darker. Hopefully I don't regret that because, again, the color is different than the first one. So I have a torn piece of paper, and all I'm doing is adding the chipped sapphire to this to make it a hill. You are still going to be able to see the embossing underneath. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, that's going to work for a hill if I want that hill there. The other one I gave it another hill, and I think I'm going to change that up a little bit for this one. I'm going to use a different torn piece of paper, and I'm going to go like this. Get this out of the way. And I'm still going to be using the chipped sapphire. I want this one to look more like it's in the background and this other one in the front, which means I'm going to have to come back and probably add more chipped sapphire to the one in the front. So that's supposed to look more in the back. So in order to make this look more in the front, I need to add a little bit more ink. Okay, yep, that's the look I want. So now I can go ahead and put the castle on in that location. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and glue that on. And one of the things I wanted to tell you about, when I did cut this out, the castle, the part you need to be careful with is the flag at the top. It's not so much the flag as the flag pole that is underneath. It's very close. You don't have to cut right on the line. You can leave a little bit of space, because if you're using the ink that blends with this background, it won't matter. So get that set up. Making sure that that looks straight. sometimes I turn it on its side to give me a better perspective. Sometimes things look straight, and then if I turn them on their side, it looks crooked. So this kind of like helps me. Okay, so the other thing that I did was all the way around the outside, which you really don't need to watch me do, but all the way around the outside, I just edged it with a chipped sapphire to tie it all in together. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding, I believe I'm going to be adding a sentiment. I'm going to test that out on my sample first, and then I'll be back in here to show you what I decided. So, okay, almost finished. All right, so that's the look of the card and whether or not we put a sentiment on. I'm going to show you both of them at the moment so you can see that there is a difference. Like I said, every time you make it, depending on how the ink works and the colors you use, it's going to be different every time. So that's the look. I really thought that was pretty fun doing the background. So I'm going to go and see what I can find for a sentiment, and I'll be back. Okay, so I found the perfect sentiment and I added that to my card. And this is, "Hope is the dream that awakens the soul." It is brand new to Fairy Hugs. It will be released, should be released on February 15th. And this set of stamps, let me just take that out a second, maybe I can get the glare away. This set of stamps comes with 7 one-line sentiments. So the first one is, "Be still and listen to, be still and listen, the earth is singing." And the second one is, "Raindrops are like fairy whispers." And the next one, "Hope is the dream that awakens the soul," which I put on this card. "Trust the magic of new beginnings. The fairies believe in you. The world needs you just the way you are, and thinking of you today." So all of those will come on one sheet, and they're all individual stamps, and you can stamp them separately. So it looks, that's what I did for both of these. So I just want to thank you for stopping by, and I will have everything that I used in the description below, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks so much.